Hi, finally back to another episode of Kasper On BI. It took a while, I got busy, I got distracted, didn't do recording for I think 2 months, so it's not so great, but I'm back, and today we're talking about a little different topic, but exciting, Power BI automation. What can you do with automation? Why would you want to do automations? What does it mean? And probably the answer is going to be PowerShell, because I'm going to talk to Frank Geisler. And Frank is a data platform MVP, lives in Germany, has his own company, and organizer of a user group in Germany too. And he's an expert on this topic. He's written books about it. He's done sessions on it. So it's going to be really exciting to learn from him what you can do with automation and where you can get started. And finally, we're going to cover the topic that everyone is talking about, a GitHub CoPilot. And GitHub CoPilot is a very cool new thing, and we'll hear all about Frank, what it means and what it can do. Hi, Frank. Honored to have you on the podcast. Excited to see you again. It's not been that long. I actually came to your user group a couple of months ago. Was it maybe December?
It was in December, but we saw as well on SQL Bits.
SQL Bits too. Yeah. So the conference circuit, really great. So great to have you here. Maybe you can do a little intro of who you are, what you do.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm very honored to be here. Well, my name is Frank Geisler. I'm self-employed with my own company. It is GDS Business Intelligence GmbH. We are located in the very nice town of Lüdinghausen in Münsterland in Germany. And what I do is, or what my company does is, we have two pillars we work on. One pillar is the data space. So what we do is we build databases, data warehouses for clients. And the other thing what we do is we do a lot of Azure stuff. So we do Azure architectures, some things with Azure virtual machines, with Azure for sure with Azure data services as well. And I'm also doing a lot of stuff in Power BI.
Yeah, and you're an MVP, and
yes, and I'm an MVP. Yes, exactly.
And you've written a lot of books and conference sessions. Yes. I actually have one here.
Ah, cool.
I'm going to do a quick plug, right?
Yeah, perfect.
But of course, it's in Power BI for Dummies. Am I saying it right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is a German book. So most of the books I've written, except of one, are in German. The one book that I didn't write in German, I wrote it together with Ben Kettner, a very good and close friend of mine. And this book is about serverless data handling with Microsoft Azure, and it was published in the APress with APress, right? And this is an English book. So last year we get the question, or we asked ourselves the question, can we write a book in English as well? And for sure we can. So we wrote the book in English. And as you said, I'm also a speaker on several conferences, and not only national conferences, but also international conferences. I run the, as you mentioned, because you were a guest here, I run the user group, PaaS user group, RG Münsterland. And I'm also on the board of PaaS Germany, or PaaS Deutschland TV.
And you host the user group in a beautiful castle.
Yeah. We host the user group in a beautiful castle. So everyone who would like to see this and would like to join us is very welcome.
Right? Exactly.
Okay.
Cool. And so how did you get started with data? I've known you for a long time, but I actually never heard on how you got started with data.
Okay. I have two stories for you. One story is how I get started with data, and the other story is how I get started with talking. So first of all, how did I get started with data? Well, it was in the year 1995, which is really, really long ago, right? And I was working on a computer shop in Bochum. And one day, the manager of the computer shop came to me and said, "Well, Frank, we have a new client, and we have a new a project that we should do. And until then, the computer shop only did things like if you have a computer and it is broken, then you can bring it, or we sell you a new computer, such things." And he said, "Well, I have a new project and we have to build a data warehouse for one of our clients, which is in the energy space. So, and what I said, well, I have no idea about all of this, but I can have a look in this. And what we did then is we built an energy data warehouse for energy suppliers with Oracle and with Delphi. I was I was I was
Delphi, right.
experimenting a little bit with Delphi that time, right? And one of the preferred databases that time in Delphi was Oracle, and this was also a very common database to all the energy suppliers. And so we built this data warehouse and sold it, I think, to 5 or 10 companies, and we couldn't get a business on this. Apart from that, because afterwards it was that there was a concentration of energy companies, or of they were more or less they were they were public energy departments, but they all got concentrated in I think 3 or 4 big energy companies, and they use SAP warehouse. So this was and from then on, and what we did then, there was a switch to SQL Server, because we in Delphi we had a component that was able to build reports, right? The problem was that this component was sold from the guy who did it. It was sold to a company, and the company did not care about this component at all. So we didn't get any support, and we were writing emails to them, but didn't get any answer. And then there was this was a time when SQL Server 2000 was published, and when the special pack or the extension pack for SQL Server 2000 was published, where a reporting service was in it. And I was, my sister at that time was working in my company. Now she's a professor at RWTH Aachen in data stream analytics. Hi, Sandra. Uh, and, well, she was working at that time at my company, and there was I think, Microsoft showcase of reporting services or something like this. And we watched this, and I said to her, well, this is exactly what we need. So this was how I was getting into the Microsoft space and into the Microsoft SQL Server space. And I'm with SQL Server, like I know it a little bit earlier. I'm with SQL Server from the version 7, but the 2000 version was the version where we said, okay, we have to switch to SQL Server to get a hold of reporting services.
Yeah,
and this was also
no, it sounds similar story to mine. By the way, I really loved Delphi.
Yeah, it was great that time. It was great that time, but I think the problem was that then Borland just renamed themselves, and then they did some crazy things with Delphi. So this was a shame. And then
I agree.
And then there was this attempt to build this C# builder or something, where they were always steps behind Microsoft, because Microsoft owns C#. So not good management. Yeah, really a shame. I love Delphi as well. So my origins in programming were to Pascal 3. And yeah, such an old guy. Well, and the thing with reporting services got me into speaking as well. So when I was dealing a little bit with reporting services, a colleague of mine who also brought me to SQL Pass Germany, or to Pass Deutschland e.V., he gave me a quick notice on I think it was called how was it called? Business Circle, or what is now Xing? It was it had a different name that time, and he pinged me and said, "Do I if I have something to do next Wednesday?" And I said, "Well, no." And he said, "Well, then come to Neuss, to the former Microsoft offices in Neuss. We will found a Verein, association or something like this." And so this was the story how I got founding member of Pass Deutschland e.V.
Nice.
Well, and the exactly same guy knew that I was dealing a little bit with reporting services, and this was before the time of Pass Deutschland e.V. And he asked me if I can come to the it was called SQL Server Inner Circle, and it was was driven by Ralf Kemperdick and Martin Fach from Microsoft. I think they are both retired now. And he asked me if I can do a talk there. And I said, well, I can do a talk for sure. And then I went to Duisburg, where I did this talk. And afterwards, Ralf Kemperdick came to me and said, Frank, we have to talk. I said, oh, well, the big guy from Microsoft wants to talk to me. What did I all get wrong in my presentation? And he went with me to another room, and he said, well, Frank, this was good. Can you please do the talk again next week in near Frankfurt in how was it called? Bad Homburg. Bad Homburg. There was a Frankfurt office of Microsoft. Can you do the talk there as well? And I said, yeah, well, I can do this. And so I got into talking. And the other thing is where I got into talking when in former times when I was a long time responsible for the PAS regional chapter Ruhrgebiet together with Klaus and Gabi. And a long time ago, when we founded that, Klaus and me, Gabi came to us a little bit later, but Klaus and me didn't knew anyone, and so we shared always, and we did a user group meeting each month, and we shared the work. So 1 month I was preparing a topic on or talk on a certain topic within the SQL Server space. The other month was Klaus, and so we were alternating, and then we get to know more and more and more people. And the last things were that we were not really able to speak in our own user group because there were so many speakers who would like to attend. Right.
Makes sense. Cool.
It was a story.
Yeah, cool. So let's talk about automation because I know you love it and you have sessions about it, but I'm a Power BI data modeler. Why do I care?
Yeah, you should care because, as you know, that the Power BI space and also the use of Power BI in companies, in big companies, is very excessive. So it could be that, for example, you have a company, it has 500 or even more workspaces in Power BI, and you might have to do something with this workspace. There was something or some project, I think I did it 2 or 3 years ago. There was a company, and the company was split to 2 companies. And what they would like to do is they would like to also split their, exactly. And what they also would like to do is they would like to split their Power BI environment as well. And what we did there, and this was a company which had far more than 500 workspaces with, as you can imagine, very, very many reports. And so what I did is I automated this with, through PowerShell, and so I just automated as many things as I could because I didn't want to do all this stuff within the user interface in Power BI or in the Power BI service, right? And it worked quite well. So and
so can you give me some examples of some of the things you did? Like, what would you use the automation for?
Yes, what I was using the automation for is I was given an Excel file, and in this Excel file there were the workspaces, and there were like this workspace has to be on this company, this workspace has to be on this company, and for sure what we would like to do as well is we would like to have all the reports in the workspace. So first of all, what I did is I wrote a PowerShell script which just downloaded all the reports to the local hard drive. Because what I then had to do is, and it just created for each workspace, it created like a directory and put all the reports in. So I had like a local copy of my of the workspaces at my hard drive. And what I did then is I had this Excel file with and it just created the workspaces in the one or the other tenant, and then uploaded the reports again. So I think with the work of 2 days, I saved a lot of work I would have to do if I would have to do it manually, right? And, and the good thing is if it works once, it will work all the time. So otherwise, if you do it manually, maybe you don't have a good day, and then you forget to do something and do it over and over again, and things like this.
I mean, can you imagine you have to like go to 1,000 workspaces? I have seen a customer with over 1 million workspaces. So
yeah,
like click, 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 click.
No,
That will be very
that's,
painful. Yeah. So
I think
automation, like downloading, and so what are some of the other tedious tasks that you can automate?
there was something which has not to do something with Power BI, but just to give you an impression what you can do with PowerShell. So on one client we had the task to build SSIS packages, and the SSIS package, or what we did is me and a colleague, we just had some kind of uh, a reference architecture, and the creation of the SSAS packages was outsourced. And in this reference architecture, in the reference paper, we had certain policies how to build an SSAS package, how to set certain properties and so on. Because what we wanted to do is we wanted to have this 450 packages who should be created. We want to run them in a bigger environment, or with some master packages and all the stuff, right? So, and after these packages were outsourced, and someday we got the packages back, and we tried the first package, didn't work. Tried the second package, didn't work as well. And then we just got a peek into the packages, and we within Visual Studio, and we saw, well, they didn't follow our rules, right? So they
Mm.
didn't set all the properties the right way. And because it was 450 packages, and the GUI from Visual Studio in SSES, which on the one and the other edge might be not so flawless, right? We said, well, what can, and there were like many properties to set correctly, right? So and we said, well, it's not feasible to do this within the GUI. And first thing what we had to do is we had to find out how big the damage is, right? So what we did is, I don't know if you know the BI documenter. I think it was from Programmatic Works at that time or something.
Yeah.
We got the BI documenter, and we put in all the packages into the BI documenter, not to document them, but to have them in the SQL Server database so we can query them. And what we did then is all the rules we had, we transformed them into SQL queries just to see where there were all violations to the packages, right? So we get a list, and the list had like 10,000 errors. We said, well, there are 10,000 errors. There is no way we can do this in Visual Studio. And if we take a guy and put him in front of the screen and he should do this, then this would last for like maybe half a year, and afterwards we can put him into asylum. So we said,
Exactly.
we won't do this. We won't do this. And then I came up with the idea, well, an SSAS package is nothing more than an XML file, right? And what we did then, and PowerShell is very good on traversing through XML files. So what we do then was we were writing like a correction script. And this correction script just traversed through all the files and set the properties the right way, right? And I think because it was a little bit complicated, and at that time, and this was the time when I fell in love with PowerShell, because we were not so knowledgeable in PowerShell that time, and there was many learning on the way, and I think we needed two weeks to write this correction script. We executed it. It took like 10 minutes, and afterwards, bam, everything worked. And this is something which you can do with PowerShell as well. And the other thing is, what I like much about PowerShell is we for some clients we also run their infrastructure, or the infrastructure within Azure with and what we do there is we do everything with PowerShell, because first of all, there are so many things to know, and mostly if you just construct something, or you have to do a lot of googling, and then knowing, well, you have to do this and this and this and this, and if you have to do it again in half a year, the googling starts over again because you cannot remember, right? But if you write a PowerShell script, you have this PowerShell script and you can just run it, and this is very, very beautiful. Another thing, what we did in PowerShell recently was what we also do is we use Intune for client management, right? And what you can do is you can you can deploy programs with Intune as well. So you have to build an Intune package, and then you can just deploy this Intune package to the client. And what we did is we used for the deployment process, we used Chocolatier, and we are creating Intune packages with PowerShell scripts with Chocolatier in them to deploy software. And the good thing about this, I have automated this process to this extent that I can, if there is a Chocolatier package for a software, I can build you the all which is needed to deploy this with Intune. I can build it in like 10 minutes or something because I have all the PowerShell scripts.
Mm. Yeah. So
And this
really
is,
making sure everything is automatable. And so
yes.
let's talk about, so, but who's kind of like the target audience for doing these
Yeah.
automations? It's not the average business user, I guess.
No, the business user not, but I think every IT professional should have a hold on PowerShell and should look into PowerShell, because often if you have administrators, either administrators in Azure or administrators on-prem, they say, well, I don't want to do anything with PowerShell because PowerShell is like programming, right? But I think this is not the right mindset, because on the one hand, PowerShell was designed to be easy, because if you look at PowerShell, there are certain rules how PowerShell commands are built. There is every time there is first of all there's a verb, and there is only a specific set of verbs. So, for example, if you want to construct something, then the verb is new. It is not create, it is not construct, it is not any other English word for building some new stuff. It is new. And then there is a dash, and then there is what you would like to build. So, or there's a substantive or a noun, and the noun is always in singular. Only exception is if there's something which doesn't appear singular, but is always in singular. So you can easily guess the commands, how to set up, or how the PowerShell commands are. Like, for example, if you want to have a new Active Directory user, it would be new dash AD user. Or if you want to have a new virtual machine, it would be new dash VM. Or if you would like to have a new Azure virtual machine, it would be new dash AZ VM or something like that.
Mm.
Right?
Have you ever created a Power BI model through?
Not at the moment, but I'm reading a very good book about this, and I will.
Yeah.
So the idea for us is here is that we will build clients PowerShell modules for our clients where there are certain commands in them. For example, like if you create a special user for a special subsidiary of a company, there are so many things which are all the same and stuff like this. And so what I will do to just ease the work a little bit is I will build PowerShell modules for them. But what I did is I built PowerShell modules just for exercise reasons. Right, this is something I did, but not for production at the moment. But I will.
Yeah. Makes sense. So let's go, because I personally have this love-hate relationship with PowerShell.
Yeah.
And because I'm probably not proficient enough, so every time I want to do something with it, it takes a lot of Googling. So, but maybe you can take one step back and kind of explain us where does it come from, and really what is it?
PowerShell.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Also PowerShell is something that Microsoft created, I think, back in 2005, something like this. 2010, maybe. I don't know. But what was the reason for building PowerShell? Well, the reason was that the guys at Microsoft had a look at some different shells, like Bash shell, like Command shell, and if you look at all the shells, then you'll see that it's kind of difficult, or they are kind of difficult to use, because you have several commands. The commands maybe all have some different syntax to them. You have to learn them. You have to remember them. All very complicated. And then they said, well, let's get maybe another approach on this, and let's do this very strict syntax for PowerShell commandlets. That was one thing. Then the other thing was they thought about, well, let's do it this way that it is very discoverable. So you have like a million, billion, whatever PowerShell commandlets. Yeah, no one can remember them. So let's build very easy tools within PowerShell to just remember all the commands. And there is the one and I think the most important command of all is get -help. You can use get-help to get an explanation of a PowerShell command, right? You would like for example, get-help new -80 user.
So
right? And that yeah.
it's like a framework that they created, and then as
Yes.
I know, for example, like Power BI, we have commandlets too that we created.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you can kind of download it and then use them.
Exactly. So what you can do with PowerShell commandlets is you can use a PowerShell commandlet as a wrapper for certain other things, like for example web APIs. So what the PowerShell commandlets from Power BI are doing is they are communicating with the web API interface of Power BI. And the good thing about this is this works all the time. So it doesn't matter if it is a Microsoft product. It doesn't matter if it is another product from another company. If you write PowerShell commandlets as wrappers for web APIs, and as you know, web APIs are a little bit complicated to use if you use them raw, right? Then you can just write everything you need for calling this web APIs within a PowerShell commandlet and have a very easy way to call them. There are even PowerShell commandlets for Azure Web Services, right? And there are PowerShell commandlets for several different, or for very or for many things in the internet as well. There is even a PowerShell module for Spotify. So you can PowerShell to automate Spotify for whatever reason, but you can do it, right? And another very important thing about PowerShell, and this is something where PowerShell is different to other shells, is PowerShell is object oriented, right? So, for example, if you use the bash shell, if you use the command shell and get something back, like maybe the contents of a directory or something like this, it will be text, right? And as you are aware, maybe in bash, if you get the text back and you would like to have something from this text, then you use some commands like grep or something and some complicated stuff to determine where the text you would like to use is, right? What PowerShell does is PowerShell works with objects. So, for example, if there are, if you want to get something or if you want to retrieve something, the PowerShell command or the PowerShell verb would be get. And it will be like if you want to have a virtual machine, it would be get-vm. And what this will return a virtual machine object. This virtual machine object is lives in your memory. And what you can do is then you can alter this virtual machine object. And if you, for example, would like to have the name of the virtual machine, it would be like you can in PowerShell for sure, as in all other languages as well, you can use variables, and you can variables start with the $, and you can write something like $VM equals get dash virtual machine minus name and so on. And then you can use the object notation for this variable, for this object to retrieve. So if you would like to have the name of the virtual machine, it would be like $VM.name, and then you get the name. And this is very, very good because it's much easier to work with objects than to just get your information from some arbitrary text that was put out.
Yeah, so mostly, so it's great at like, okay, it's easy to write because it's object oriented, so it's kind of easier to understand what the properties are and how these things work.
Exactly.
Of course, you probably create those objects in those wrappers. Like
yes,
that's where they exist. And as a Power BI user, again, the reason why I would want to do this is because of repeatability. Like if I have a task that I need to do over and over and over again.
Exactly.
So that kind of leads me to the next question. I know, I mean, the times I have written it on my computer and like Visual Studio Code or something like this. I've written it in there and then I run it. But how do I automate this? Like, how do I make sure that it runs every day or?
Yeah, there are several things you can do. For example, what you can do is you can use in Azure you can use Azure Runbooks and put in some PowerShell code to just maybe start your virtual machines or stop your virtual machines, or to do something with a Power BI service. And the other thing what you could do is if you are working locally, you can use PowerShell scripts on many on many ways. You can use them, for example, if as scripts if you log into your machine, or you can just run them by using the scheduler in Windows, right?
Oh yeah.
If you do it locally. Yeah? So, and there are many things about how you can run PowerShell code automatically. The other thing, what I think what's very important, and where is the difference between PowerShell and if you don't use PowerShell and just click through things, is if you're using PowerShell, you have code, right? And the code you can put into a repository, and then you can even see how your code will evolve over time. And the other thing is, if you use it for building infrastructure and for creating infrastructure, the other thing is that and for management reasons, the other thing is you have code, and this code also documents what you're doing. So you don't
Yeah.
have to, for example, if you want to install something, you don't have to write a Word document. Now I do this and now I do this to have a documentation, but you have the code, and everything and everyone who's able to read PowerShell can read the code and has the documentation what you have done, right?
Yeah. Makes sense.
And this is something I like about PowerShell very much as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know the majority of the Power BI customers are using PowerShell to get the logs out, and like
Yeah, yeah,
you've probably seen Rui Romano's
yeah,
script to
yeah,
log and to create everything and to pull
yeah,
data
yeah.
out, and so yeah, again, it's really powerful. But so now I think you and I, maybe we've convinced a few people I should learn this. Where should I go and
Yeah.
what should I do?
There are um, as with all the topics, there is plenty of things where you can learn. So first of all, what I would suggest is Microsoft Learn is a very good thing, because there are several courses on PowerShell and also on PowerShell regarding a certain topic.
Hmm.
Another thing which I can, where what I really like is I really like the PowerShell for Dummies book. But I only read the German one. I don't know about how the English one is, but and the German one was written by a German guy as well, so this is not a translation.
Yeah.
But this is something I like very, very much. Then what can be done is there is this PowerShell.org, where you find a lot of information and a lot of resources on PowerShell. And then there are some specific books on if you are very interested in some specific topic. So as we are coming from the data space, Kasper, right? There is one PowerShell module we always should mention. It is DBA tools. DBA tools automate so many things regarding to SQL Server and to Azure SQL Database, and it's really mind blowing. So, for example, if you want to like migrate SQL Server on prem to another SQL Server on prem, it's like one command,
Hmm.
and you can specify in the command if it should also migrate the jobs, if it also should migrate the users and everything. So um, that it's really 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 powerful. And what I can recommend to learn this is there is a wonderful book which is DBA Tools in a Month of Lunches, which is written from the heads behind or the organizers behind DBA Tools. I think there are more than 150 contributors right now
Wow.
to DBA Tools, and this module is really mind blowing. And the book is good because it explains everything about this, and this is a very good book. And the other book I can recommend is if you are a little bit further in the Power BI space, and this is a book I read at the moment, is the book PowerShell Scripting in a Month of Lunches, which originally had the title PowerShell Tool Making in a Month of Lunches, but they said for marketing reasons they will, because PowerShell 2 making, no one can think about what this will be. So they renamed the book into PowerShell Scripting in a Month of Lunches, and it's about how do I build my own PowerShell tools, how do I build my own PowerShell modules, and how do I do it the PowerShell way, right?
Oh, yeah, that
So
sounds more advanced for sure.
yeah, it's more advanced, right? But
Yeah,
it's a very
we'll
good.
put the links in the description.
Yeah, sure. We will. And on the other hand, there are so many. And in another thing where you can learn PowerShell as well is you can also, there are lots of YouTube videos on this in all different languages. So
Yeah,
there are many resources you can use to learn PowerShell.
awesome. And so, are there any things that it's not so good at? Like you say, okay, maybe not, or you can say you can do mostly anything.
I
Like if you
think
decide to never use any GUI anymore, just do everything in PowerShell, it's possible.
Yeah, for sure. It's not only possible because, on the other hand, is if compared to a GUI, for example, compared to the GUI of Microsoft Azure, to the web pages, to the portal, you can even do more things with PowerShell than you can do in the portal. So they, at the moment, they are building more and more stuff into the portal, so you can do more and more things with it. But when I started, and I started with Azure a long time ago, I was like. In the very early beginnings, there are many things you can do in PowerShell because, alone and not in the portal, because PowerShell just talks to the web API,
Yeah.
right? And the web,
Yeah,
web
like for
API has
example, I know the Tableau object model has a lot of properties, way more that you
yeah,
can set in
yeah,
Power BI
yeah,
Desktop. So yeah,
exactly. So yeah, well, but what we have to keep in mind is that PowerShell is a scripting language. So for sure, you can build everything you would like to do regarding administrative work, regarding automation. You can do this in PowerShell. PowerShell is not a full-fledged programming language. So if you would like to write the next Doom clone or something like this, I think PowerShell would not be the right fit.
that makes
But
sense.
maybe it works as well. Who knows?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen people do crazy stuff. Like I don't know if you've ever seen this,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
even with Power BI, people made Doom or Wolfenstein
Really?
clone. Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
Oh, can you put the link into to the
sure.
links?
Actually,
That would be
yeah, it
interesting.
actually
I can do that.
I think my first Kasper On BI interview with Phil Seamark,
Ah,
he actually wrote
okay.
it all in DAX, so
Oh, cool.
it's pretty mind blowing.
Oh, cool.
I will
Yeah,
definitely put it in the description.
perfect.
Yeah,
So
so
yeah, there are also scripts or modules in PowerShell where you can build graphical user interfaces, right? So yeah, probably this works as well. Who knows? Maybe we have
awesome.
to start a Google search on this. to
Yeah,
see if
yeah.
someone has implemented Doom or Wolfenstein in
I
PowerShell.
mean, I've seen the most crazy things that people do. So, like, I think I
Yeah,
remember once there
yeah,
was a power hour at TechHead. I
yeah,
think it was really
yeah.
early on, and someone wrote Space Invaders in Excel. It
Oh,
actually
great,
worked.
cool, cool.
It
Yeah,
it's
I've
just
seen that someone ported Doom to the graphical user to the graphical or the screen on a Canon printer
yeah.
for whatever reason.
Yeah, why not? Why not? All right, cool.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I mean,
exactly.
so we kind of already talked about it, but I mean, the main reason for PowerShell is automation, repeatability,
Exactly. Exactly.
making things easier. So that brings us to probably the most exciting topic,
Yeah.
because soon we don't have to write anything ourselves anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
GitHub
probably.
CoPilot. Everyone is talking about copilots, but in the
Yes.
development space, GitHub CoPilot is really amazing.
Yes.
What does it do? What is it?
First of all, what you said, what is a very good suggestion or very good recommendation is if you write PowerShell code, use Visual Studio Code because it's a very good environment to write PowerShell code, right? And GitHub Copilot is something. It's for sure it's AI driven, like most of the things these times. And there is a GitHub Copilot extension for Visual Studio Code. You can just download it and install it. And what you need in the backend for Visual for GitHub Copilot is you need, I think, a GitHub Professional subscription and a GitHub Copilot subscription. And what it does then is it's there is an artificial intelligence behind this. I think some kind of neural network or something, and it went through all the code which is on GitHub. And when you have GitHub Copilot installed into Visual Studio Code, you can start by just if you're a professional and a good developer, you will start writing comments, right, in your code. And while writing comments, like for example, comments in PowerShell always start with a hashtag. So you write like hashtag connect to Power BI service, and then it will just give you the code how to connect to Power BI service. And then you can do things like, for example, get all the workspaces, and it will write code how to get all the workspaces. And this works quite well. And it not only works in English. So if you write your comments in English, it also works if you write the comments like in German. I tested that when I was on the
wow.
MVP summit, and I had a little bit time to play around with this. And during I tested this, there was Magnus as well from Sweden, and I said, well, Magnus, can you please put in something in Swedish? And then it's also understood this Swedish sentences he was putting in and was creating the code as well. And the thing is that it not only creates a code for your comments, it also suggests the next comments. So for example, if you put in some comment like connect with Power BI service, and it will write the PowerShell command, and then it will suggest as the next command, it will suggest the command get all the workspaces. And you can just by tap, you can just
cycle through it.
Cycle through it, or you can just accept this, and then it will write the code for this. And if you start in another language, in English, then the preceding comments will be in that language. So, for example, if I start in German, and the next comment GitHub Copilot will suggest will be in German as well.
I mean, it doesn't just work for PowerShell, right? It works for
exactly. It works for all the languages. So when you're in Visual Studio Code, then there is at the right bottom you can select which language your code, your text you're seeing at the moment is in. And if you change it, for example, to Bicep, it will work in Bicep as well. It will work in C#. It will work on all languages that are available in Visual Studio Code, right?
wow.
And well, sometimes it gets some things wrong. So if there are always these horror scenarios like, oh, we don't need any programmers anymore and we will be all out of job and so on. I don't think so, because on the one hand, it's what it is only statistics. If you break it down, artificial intelligence is nothing more like statistics, very, very complicated statistics, but statistics could be wrong.
Well, I mean, in this case, right, the LLM models are, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is that even if the code is automatically created, it will not be perfect for sure. And the other thing is you have to have someone who has knowledge about this to see what's happening. So what you can, it's just an example I make up, but think about the situation where you put in something like create an Active Directory user. And because something went wrong, some things it will give you the PowerShell command to delete all Active Directory users. So you have to have a knowledgeable person. Yeah. Oops. Oh.
Oops.
Oh, that went bad.
Drop database. Yeah. Oops.
Drop database. Exactly. As you said, drop database, it works for T-SQL as well. So what you can do is if you switch to Visual Studio Code to T-SQL, you can write something like create a table for customers with a name, with an ID, and so on and so on. It will create it, and it will, for example, if you say create an ID, it will create an ID field in your table with a primary key on it. So, but what I was talking about is you have to have a person who is able to evaluate what the result will be, right? to just judge about can we run this, or maybe we should not run this because of me, right? And but on the other hand, what I think is it will give programmers who are able to program, it will give them a productivity boost, because I as I already told, PowerShell, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of commandlets you cannot know by heart and everything like this. And
Yes.
so if you if you start writing something, for me there is always a lot of googling involved, right? To see, what's the command, what are the parameters, what does it do. For sure, you can also use the help from PowerShell, but sometimes you want to use commandlets in a broader in some broader context or something like this. So maybe the help on this case will not be such a big help. But if you use GitHub CoPilot, it will also it will also create maybe larger sets of code for you, right? And this is something which really boosts productivity.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And the other thing is, it will
So
not
you're
only
using it for every project now?
Yeah, I installed it into Visual Studio Code, and then it is there. And when I start to write code, it will kick off and will work on this. And it does not only learn from the code in the internet, it also learns from the code that you have in your project. So, for example, what I do in PowerShell is I have a certain code layout. What I don't like is I don't like these PowerShell commands which are very long, and you have to scroll all the way to see, well, where is this in this parameter. I think it's not easy readable. So what I do is I put each parameter on a single line. So you have like a block of code, and you see, well, this is a commandlet, and these are all the parameters with the values and so on. And this is something that GitHub Copilot also knows. So it will lay out, after a little while, it will lay out the code the way you are programming your code as well. So,
Pretty
and
awesome.
this, yeah, it's
But
really awesome. I like it
it
very
does
much.
cost money, right?
Yeah, it's if you use, I think if you only have the Git Copilot license, I think it's like $10 a month or something, which is, I think, it's not too much money.
Yeah, if you and is it come with anything else? Like I know we used to have like MSDN subscriptions. I don't even know if it still exists.
Hmm?
Like, does it come with anything else, or is it just $10 a month? That's it. You have to buy it.
I'm not 100% sure if GitHub professional license is the basis on which you can. But I think it's easy to find out if we just look at the page of GitHub.
Yeah,
Right.
because you get it because
Yeah.
you're MVP, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. I
Luckily.
also have it because I'm a Microsoft employee, so that's also helps.
Cool. Yeah.
But I haven't
Perfect.
actually played with it, and I now I should install. I did
Yeah.
connect it. I have it, so I need to download that plugin into Visual Studio Code. It's been a while since I
Exactly.
wrote any code, but it makes me excited
Okay.
to try it out.
Yeah, just try it out. It's really
So,
if you see
so
it
we
the
can
first time,
expect
it's mind-blowing.
sessions from you about this soon.
Yeah, I can do. Yes. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
so. I didn't work on a session on this, and I only started to work with it, right? What I heard, but this is only something I heard. I didn't experiment myself. Is what you can even do is you can write comments like, there is an error in this code, please fix it, or something like this. As I said, I didn't I have no proof for this that this works, but I heard this. And the other thing, what's maybe one more thing, what's interesting about this is as well is it keeps context. So for example, if you are maybe the example that I said, Kasper, about getting all the Power BI workspaces into one variable, right? Um, you can extend this furthermore. So the next thing you could do is like loop through all the workspaces, right? And in the code that it will create, then it will use the variable name of the workspace that it load in all the workspaces. So it will through writing your code, it will keep context, right? So that you don't have, for example, see, well, it fetched some arbitrary code from the internet, from GitHub, where someone is looping through workspaces, and now we have to replace the variable because it doesn't fit to my code because I have another variable name. No, it just keeps the context, and it uses this variable name you put in for the preceding steps.
That
So
makes
this is
sense.
interesting
This is
as well.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have not tried it, you just have to give it a try. And as you said,
Well,
it works not only with
I'm pretty interested to
PowerShell,
see
it
how
works
it's going to
with
work on
everything.
SQL. But yeah, it looks pretty cool. Sounds pretty
Yeah,
cool to me.
I gave it a little test. So what it can do is it can create tables, and then I wrote a comment about please create a store procedure which will retrieve data from this table from this column and this column and this column, and this was something it didn't do. So and sometimes what can happen as well, and this is why you have to be a programmer to use this anyway, is sometimes it doesn't really get what you put in the comment, and it's maybe sometimes it does something like it is stuck in a loop, and then it will repeat some comment over and over and over again. So it is cool. It is really interesting to see, but for sure it is only a tool, right?
Can you imagine
And
in 5 years?
In 5 years, it will be better, but it will be just only a tool. Because if you don't have someone who can operate this, and what you have to, and I think working with many clients and with many users who are not programmers, but who are maybe like end users or something like this, it is like what you have to do, or what you have to know if you use such a tool. You have to know how to split a task into subtasks and how to
You still have to think
them in a
logically.
that exactly. That's a very good thing. You have to think logically, and and I think if you can program, it is a very good tool which eases much of your work, and it replaces all this. If you program, I can also program C# or something like this. If you program, I think it's always a lot of googling, and this is something which
Yes.
which really is replaced.
Yeah,
and that's
definitely
this
true.
is what makes it cool. Yeah.
All right, cool. So, I mean, okay,
Yeah.
so let's kind of recap. So PowerShell, great for automation. Like, and to be honest, there's, especially in the Microsoft world, it's PowerShell.
Maybe.
That's it. There's really no other choice, right?
Yeah, that's it. And the other thing is what I maybe would like to add is that PowerShell is not limited to one product. What you can do as well is, for example, if you would like to build a very big infrastructure, maybe you have like SQL servers, you have like SharePoint servers, whatever, you can script the whole thing, because it is not limited on one product. It is and even there are, I can give you a link to a very cool PowerShell module where you can create Excel files from within PowerShell without having Excel on the computer, and not only simple Excel files like these Z files or something like this, but really complex Excel files with maybe even dynamic formatting and everything like this. And this is the power of PowerShell, that it is not limited to one product, but it is really you can really use it cross
Anything
product.
goes. Yeah.
Anything goes. Yes, right.
Yeah, I think the biggest barrier probably is, okay, yeah, I have to learn it, and you have to see the opportunity. Like, hey, this is something I'm doing over and over and over. And I think this is probably like we're programmers by nature, from heart.
Yeah.
So instead of clicking around and doing it, we are like, I don't want to do this. Let's automate it.
Exactly.
Like, but I am not so sure if everyone has this same thing in mind. Like, if you come from a different background, I don't know, finance, or it's probably even there, they might automate. So yeah, you really need to get that click saying, okay, instead of going through this, I can use this tool, I can learn it, and I can automate and go sit on the beach.
Yeah. And you know why we created the thing with Intune, as I told a little bit earlier? It was because I was using the Intune interface in the Explorer. right, in the web interface. And when you do things like packaging of software, or you do things like automating DevOps pipelines or something like this, there's always something you get wrong. Always. There is a dash you're missing. There is something, and they say, well, the whole thing doesn't work, so we have to do it over and over again. And when I did the exact same package for the second or third time because I missed something somewhere, I said, well, there's no point in this. And if you do it through the web interface, it takes a long time because you have to fill in everything. And if you just have a script, you just correct your error, give it a go, and then this works. So so I created the thing for the packages in Intune, right? And that's it was much quicker than going through the web GUI over and over and over again.
Makes sense. All right, cool. Yeah. Well, thank you. I hope we gave a lot of people some really good ideas on PowerShell and what to use and when to use. One question that I always ask.
Yeah.
What is the most exciting feature of Power BI that is released in the last year for you?
I think the most interesting feature to my liking is that you can alter the PowerShell modules in the browser as well now. Because if you have PowerShell Desktop, it is a program that is only limited to Windows machines. But what if you're using, for example, a Mac? Then then you cannot. Yeah, you can install Parallel Desktop and things like this and run Power BI Desktop. But if you use or if there are more and more functionality of Power BI Desktop in the service as well, then you can easily use it on other platforms. Because
the web authoring is exciting you.
Yeah, I really like it. So I use my Mac many times as well. And for example, it's not a big problem with either PowerShell, because there's also a PowerShell core version you can use on Mac and on Linux, or using Visual Studio Code, which also runs on Mac and Linux. And so it's really, and I understand that Power BI Desktop is a program that is not easily transferred to these platforms. But yes. If these things are built into the service, then I think there is an even broader audience for Power BI.
Makes sense. Cool. Yeah. So, Frank, I really want to thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
It was good. I would love to. Yeah. Now I'm actually excited to go and play it, test it out too. So yeah, that's good.
So do it. And if you have questions, just reach out. And everyone else, I'm on Twitter and things like that. I don't think it's too hard to find me on the internet.
And so again, I'll put your contact details and your Twitter account in the description. So
perfect.
Awesome. So Frank, thank you very much, and I'll talk to you hopefully
you're very welcome.
Soon.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably.
Talk to you
All
soon.
Right. Thank you. Bye. And that concludes another episode of Kasper On BI. I hope you're as excited as I am to go play with PowerShell and GitHub CoPilot. As I am, I'm definitely going to play with it. I have a long weekend here in the Netherlands. We have holidays coming up, so I have some time on my hands. So that will be really cool. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something. Stay tuned, because next week there is the Build Conference and stuff is going to happen there. So I'll be doing a podcast 2 next week to talk about it. So with that, thank you for your time. If you liked it, hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel. There's much more coming up. With that, I wish you a nice day, and I'll talk to you next time.